Alright, so this is what we're working with today. If you guys haven't already seen the last Civic video, definitely go check it out. It kind of explains to you how we got in the situation that we are currently in right now. One thing I didn't show you guys was like the hours of testing and trying stuff out that we actually did. A lot of you guys had comments and told me, like DMs, emails. A lot of people went crazy trying to help me solve this problem. So I just wanted to say thank you to everybody that reached out and tried to offer your help or your ideas or whatever, because this is a stupid problem and we still don't know what it is. In the last video, I told you that we tested the ECU and it was good, right? The very last thing at the end of the video, Nick texted me and said the ECU was good. So this is our ECU with Honda already in it. This is the one we were using when we got the cartoon. He plugged this into a similar build, K20, Big Turbo, 1000cc injectors, fired the car right up. That's good. That's good for me because that means we don't have to mess around with the ECU, which means I now have a second spare RSX ECU, which is good because I'm gonna probably use it in the EG one day when we get there. If you guys haven't seen, I posted on Instagram like an update on all the cars. It was the other day, but it's still there for updating you guys on everything. I told you guys I kind of fell out of touch a little bit, and then like when we had Chris on, we were just going crazy trying to make videos, and I forgot to connect with you guys, and then I was talking about it in the Jeep video. You guys know. You guys already know where I'm at. I'm trying to just get back to basics and hanging out and making videos. So we got two ECUs. I went out today and I picked up a main relay. Now we tried Nick's main relay when we were at the dyno. We took one out of his EG and put it in here. But just for the sake of maybe his EG one didn't work or whatever, I don't know. I bought a new one. We're gonna try it. We're gonna see what happens. Yesterday I went down to see him to get my ECUs back. And he printed me all these frickin' diagrams. Dude, this is the worst. This is a K20 diagram, all the electrical for the K20. This is the power distribution for the EK, sorry. Because in here somewhere there's some stuff that I've starred because you guys know that I hate wiring. I usually make other people do it and I'm colorblind and I just hate doing wiring. Our main goal right now is to get this car back running because it was about to make power on the dyno. We were there. We were literally there. And then it broke somehow and I don't understand how. I guess let's plug this ECU back in. We'll unbox this main relay. And we're gonna start by just plugging that in and then just trying it. Dude, that sucks. The issue that we're having is that it doesn't power up like the fuel pump or any of that stuff. It'll crank, like the starter will go. The starter's a separate signal source. It's its own thing. So it's the main relay is not powering up and the main relay is responsible for the entire car powering up. All we get is like warning lights on the dash. We don't even get an engine light. We just get like a seatbelt light. So now as far as I'm concerned, do I have a rear wiper on this guy? He works. So that's a good thing. He's got something to do with it being traced. This is what I was talking about. Okay, so I might get some of this wrong. This is the ignition system right here. When you turn the key, right, you should have power come through this wire and that should basically power up everything inside of this box. Right here, there's a fuse that goes through, does the main relay, but over here, it does rear window wiper motor, is what I'm trying to say. So basically what happens is there's still power coming through the ignition, which is good. So when we turn the key to the on position, it's nothing to do with the actual ignition, like cylinder wiring. I'm not gonna be the best at explaining this stuff. I don't know the most about it. I'm gonna continue to do things like this. I made a couple little notes on these papers when I was talking with Nick, like check this for power. I put a star beside it because I knew it's important. Let's try and make it happen, I guess. Okay, so that's good. Oh, baby. Not very exciting, but we are getting somewhere. I smoked my forehead on the frickin' underside of the dashboard, so that's what that is. All right, I jumped a ground to this main relay just because I don't know what the hell is going on. I checked literally everything, like the diagram. I checked everything underneath here. There's nothing. There's no like alarm system installed. The only wire that was out of place was the dimming wire for the gauges because I guess it got kicked out. So I jumped this ground to the ground on the main relay. I don't know if you guys will be able to hear it. I can feel it. I put the old one back just in case I blew it up. I can feel it happening in my hands. I don't know if you guys can hear it. Let's try. Ready? That's a good step in the right direction. I'm still extremely curious what that means, because when we turn it, we get nothing still. We get no fuel pump, it clicks, we get no fuel pump, we get no engine light. As long as I don't hit my forehead again, I really don't care. Freaking hurt, dude. Holy shit, dude. I don't even know what happened. It sounded like my gas hit the floor. Was that what that was, or I just haven't heard it priming? All right, well, let me show you what's going on here. Frankie's been hanging out with us today, which is actually kind of cool. She's like finally growing up to the point where she can chill out here and not chew on everything. She's more interested in just like getting some free snuggles. This is the stupidest thing that's ever happened. I literally just disconnected the battery, disconnected everything. I took everything in this car apart. I came back here, I put everything back together. You can see me like cutting some wires and whatever in the time lapse, but there's nothing really like mentionable that I did. Like I untucked all this, I was trying to see what's behind here, but nothing was behind there, so now it's just back together. I undid every single connection from the ECU, checked all the pins, made sure all the pins were good. Like I literally didn't do anything, that's the issue. Then I put this back and I put a ground from here to the ECU. When it was in here before, it was bolted up to this bar and it was technically like grounded. The internet says you don't need to ground your ECU. I tried this yesterday though and it didn't do anything. So I'm just super confused. Somewhere in a time lapse yesterday, you'll see me ground the ECU and nothing changed. I really don't like that I don't know what happened. I could tell you that grounding the ECU could have been it, although I really don't think it was. It must be there's a loose wire somewhere or something. I was doing yesterday too, was grabbing the ECU and shaking it. Not like the ECU, but like the harness, and just shaking it and seeing if like something would kick on or like one of the wires was upset. So as much as I would love to know what 100% was causing that so that we could make sure it doesn't happen again, I don't know if we're gonna be able to find out unless it happens again. Oh yeah, it snowed a little bit. It's gonna go away, it's still early, but it's like a warning snow. I wish I knew. Running? It's running. Don't ask me what I did. I have no idea, but it's running. Oh, wow. So Nick said he can get the car in about a week. He says probably early next week he'll be able to stuff this thing in there. Instead of leaving you guys hanging again like we did when we went to the dyno, I'm gonna touch up a couple things today and get it really dialed in for when we go back to him. Basically the last thing that we did when we were at the dyno was we wired in this boost solenoid. So we put him right there. He was kind of temporary just to get it done for like the day when we were there. So basically I'm gonna wire this back in and do everything that was supposed to get done at the dyno just to, you know, make sure that when we get back there, we don't have the same issue when he goes to route this thing again. So we got to clean it up just a little bit. You can see this hose is kind of sticking really high up. And that way when it's done at the dyno, it is frickin' done. You can see right here, underneath there's a little wire. I basically wrapped the two up, ran them underneath the clutch cable there, over here, and then I tapped one into one of the auxiliary wires, and one of them I stole power from the IAC because we're not actually using that sensor at all. So I basically just cut the power, spliced it onto that. That's what Nick had been doing, so I'm pretty sure that that's totally fine. And then I just fired two screws up in here in our MAC valve and basically just cleaned up the wires, or the hoses, sorry, a little bit on the top. So it's not beautiful, but I mean, that's what it has to be to work. Under here, everything is kind of tied up and ready to go. Now I said I wired one of those wires to the green auxiliary wire, meaning that K-tune gives you 3 extra wires inside of the harness that you can wire whatever you want to. So we wired the MAC valve, the boost solenoid, basically to one of the accessory wires. You guys can see the green aux wire still sticking out of the ECU here. So I'm gonna just wire this back up to the other auxiliary wire And then I'm gonna try and install everything the way it was and do the tuck, because right now seems like the best time to do the wiring tuck. You guys know this has always been just a complete show under here. We've had wires and stuff all over the place. So I may as well clean this thing up. Hopefully I can get it to look good and also be working still at the end of the day. Then we should be good. And now, as long as this little green guy works, we can run 18 pounds of boost on this setup. It's a lot of boost for a little engine. So let's dial it all in and see if we can't make that happen. Dude, I'm actually surprised that worked. Okay, so I moved the ECU over because you guys know that we had a disgusting mess of wires underneath before. So basically the ECU used to sit upside down, so the wires would come in underneath this, plug into the ECU kind of behind that bar. Plugged all the wires in up here, even moved this little connector up here, kind of tucked him behind the fuse box so that there's more wires kind of in this area where there was already a bunch of shit anyways. So I did that just to kind of like tuck everything up and get it out of the way. And then when I went to close this, I realized that this is where the seam is right in line with the ECU. So when I closed it, it wouldn't even go a little close. So I basically lobbed the whole thing off, and then I used an extra Yonaka lanyard that I had laying around, because I get one with every order and I have a ton of Yonaka stuff. So I made a little thing. Not that it matters, but at least now when you open this, or someone else mainly opens this shit's not gonna fly out at them. So that's good. Now we just gotta figure out all this wires. And look at that, dude, that is unreal. You can see the little wires sticking out from the camera's angle, but if you put your head up at like a head angle, you don't see anything. But dude, that is as clean as this passenger seat has ever been. And we just hope that when I put this battery connection back on, this thing starts, because, or at least just the ECU has to power up, engine light has to come on. Oh, thank you. So that is it, dude. Look at that. Beautiful. And everything's wired up the way Nick wanted it. He can still access everything there. My little Yonaka thing keeps that open. Hopefully this guy still works. So we're at the stage now where we were when we were at the dyno. And Nick, why was that so sad sounding? Nick was trying to wire up the solenoid. So the solenoid is in, the solenoid is tucked. I got all the wiring I showed you guys here. Good. And it's wired up to the ECU, and everything is where Nick basically had it before everything went to shit. So the only other thing we're gonna do is we're gonna bring all these springs to the dyno, because Nick wants us to be running 10-pound spring, because then we can double it, which makes 20 pounds, and then just back it up just a little bit. That way it's not running at like complete maxed out. So that's a 7-pound spring. So with the solenoid, all we can do is get 14 pounds, and he wants 18. So the thing with springs is you don't know how much they're rated for ever. Basically, well, like, I don't know what this is, but say this is 7 and this can make it 10. You just kind of drop it in, put it back together like that, or we run 2 bigger ones. This one's obviously more than this one. You can see just by the thickness of the metal, but none of them are labeled. So there's no way for me to know what anything is. And I actually have a couple more out in my shed, just random boxes of with springs in them. So we're gonna bring all these springs, and that's pretty much it, dude. Everything's wired up. I'm gonna go through and do a complete bolt check before we go back to Nick, just because obviously we were on the dyno at one point, so if we were abusing it a little bit too much and anything came loose, I want to find out before we go back and re-abuse everything. Just goes to show you that if you stay committed, you can figure it out. I took the ground wire off the ECU because there's a bolt going through the ECU to that little frame piece, so that should ground it the same if it was the ground that it was needing. So that's all I got for you guys. I'll catch you guys next time. Thank you guys so much for watching. Peace out and stay committed.